we need to talk about Victor. For 3 entire seasons, we have completely misread the most important character in this show. We have looked at him with pity. We assumed he was just a broken man trapped inside an endless nightmare. We thought his crayon drawings were the desperate coping mechanisms of a deeply traumatized mind. We thought he was just recording the history of Fromville. But what if we have it completely backwards? What if Victor is not the town's historian? What if he is its architect? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into the definitive endgame theory for the show. We are calling this the crayon geometry theory. Once you see the evidence, the entire physical landscape of this town makes terrifying sense. The looping roads, the moving trees, the shifting architecture of the tunnels. None of this is random demonic magic. The town is operating on the spatial logic of a child's drawing, and the boy holding the crayon never stopped drawing. Get comfortable. Grab your talismans. We are going deep into the lore today. Chapter 1. The spatial logic of a child. Let us start with the physical geometry of Fromville. It makes absolutely no geographical sense. If you drive down the road, you loop right back into town. The woods seem to shift overnight. The faraway trees act as spatial portals. We have spent years trying to apply real-world physics to this pocket dimension. We theorized about wormholes, tesseracts, and government simulations. We were overthinking it. We need to think like a traumatized child from the 1970s. Look at how a child draws a map. A child does not understand Euclidean geometry. If a child draws a road and runs out of paper, they just draw a line connecting it back to the start. That is exactly how the town operates. It is a closed loop drawn on a finite page. The physical boundaries of the town act like the edges of a sketchbook. You cannot cross them because nothing exists beyond the margin. Now, look at the faraway trees. They transport you instantly from one location to another. How does that make sense? It makes sense if you look at a maze drawn on a diner placemat. If you hit a dead end, you just draw a magical tunnel to the other side of the page. Victor has been drawing these trees for decades. And here is where it gets terrifying. Fans have noted a direct correlation. As the volume of Victor's drawings regarding the trees increases, the physical proximity of the trees to Colony House and the town center shrinks. He is measuring the encroachment without realizing he is causing it. Every time he adds a detail to his pictures, the physical reality of the town updates to match it. He is not drawing what he sees. He is drawing what the town will become. The entity controlling this realm is using his imagination as the rendering engine for its prison. Chapter 2. Polaroids versus Crayons. If Victor can reshape reality with crayons, why does he also carry a Polaroid camera? This is the most brilliant thematic duality in the entire series. We have to look at the function of both mediums. A Polaroid captures objective truth. It freezes a specific moment in time exactly as it happened. You cannot easily alter a photograph. It is a permanent anchor to reality. A crayon drawing, however, is entirely subjective. It is fluid. It is an act of sheer creation and invention. Victor is fundamentally terrified of losing his memory. He is terrified of losing his grip on what is real. He uses the Polaroid camera to document objective reality. The photos prove that people existed. They prove that events actually happened. But the crayons are his curse. The entity forces him to draw. When the trauma becomes too much, his subconscious bleeds out onto the paper. He draws a monster, and the town spawns a monster. He draws a collapsing tunnel, and the earth caves in. The camera is his desperate attempt to remember the truth. The crayons are the chains that bind him to the town's shifting geometry. There is a pattern buried in the community analysis that solidifies this. The town's geometry only aggressively changes when an objective record, like a Polaroid, is lost, hidden, or destroyed. When the photos are absent, the town is free to shift, and Victor's crayon drawings become a desperate attempt to force the environment back into a recognizable static shape. Think of it as quantum observation. In a realm governed by nightmare logic, the physical layout exists in a state of flux until observed. Victor's Polaroids lock the geometry into place. The dimension continually tries to isolate or destroy these objective records, because the photographs force the town to obey the laws of physics. The crayons are the subjective blueprint, the Polaroids are the objective anchor, and the town is at war with both. Chapter 3. Story walkers and reincarnated lines. Let us fold in the massive revelations from Season 4 regarding the cycles. We learned that the timeline of Fromville is not a straight line, it is a repeating loop. The show explicitly confirmed that Tabitha and Jade are the reincarnations of Miranda and Christopher. They have been here before. They have played these exact roles in previous cycles. Julie was revealed to be a storywalker. She can literally step through the chapters of the town's history. This proves the town operates like a book. But who is writing the book? Victor. Think about Christopher's descent into absolute madness. Christopher saw the symbol and it broke his mind. Why? Because the symbol is not a letter. It is a geometric blueprint. Christopher realized that the entire town was a construct of Victor's mind. When Christopher tried to save the children, he realized they were trapped inside a layered drawing. Jade is currently tracing those exact same lines. Jade's obsession with mapping the tunnels and the symbols is ultimately futile. You cannot map a space that is actively being redrawn by a terrified man-child in a colony house bedroom. The reason the cycles keep repeating is because Victor keeps tracing over the same old drawings. He is stuck in a trauma loop, and the town is physically manifesting that loop every time the cycle attempts to reset, wiping the memories and starting the massacre anew. Victor's hidden caches of drawings serve as a backup drive. He hides them in the trunks of cars, in the glass bottles, and deep within his own room because the town's entity actively wants to destroy them. The town relies on the residents forgetting the rules so they can be hunted again. Without Victor's drawing of the lighthouse, Tabitha would have never found the physical path to reach it. The town tries to obscure the path, shifting the woods and sending the monsters, but the crayon drawing acts as an unbreakable compass needle pointing to the truth. Victor's art forces the dimension to maintain a continuity it desperately wishes to discard. Chapter 4: The Lake of Tears and the Edge of the Page. This brings us to the most critical geographical landmark in the entire show, the Lake of Tears. Ethan saw it in his early fairy tale visions. Victor drew it repeatedly in his childhood sketches. Jade's frantic mapping inevitably leads right to it. The law drops at the end of season 4 practically scream this theory at us. The Lake of Tears is heavily implied to be the physical edge of the pocket dimension. If the town is a sketchbook, the lake is the spiral binding. It is the absolute limit of the rendering engine. That is why the geometry fundamentally breaks down when characters get near it. The rules of gravity, space, and time start to glitch. The lake is also where the entity resides in its baseline ancient form, the giant spider. The spider weaves a web. A web is just a series of geometric lines designed to trap prey. The spider uses Victor's mind as the silk to spin the town. To cross the Lake of Tears means walking off the edge of the paper. It forces the entity to drop its human disguises. The lake is not just water, it is the void outside the margins of Victor's imagination. Chapter 5: The Man in Yellow's Masterpiece. We cannot talk about the town's geometry without talking about the entity enforcing it. The Man in Yellow. Season 4 showed us how insidious this ancient force truly is. It infiltrated the town disguised as Sophia, a sheltered pastor's daughter. It played psychological games. It fed on the fear and the hope of the residents. The Man in Yellow told the pastor that the end was his favorite part. He loves watching them tear each other apart. He loves the burning and the mess. But he never actually ends the game. He resets it. Why? Because an art gallery needs an artist. The Man in Yellow is the curator, but Victor is the engine. The entity needs Victor to keep drawing. It needs his trauma to fuel the physical construction of the town. If the Man in Yellow is the author of the nightmare, then Victor is the rogue editor. The Man in Yellow uses hallucinations, the cicadas, the music box, and false visions to rewrite the residents' perception of reality. But Victor's drawings are immune to the Man in Yellow's telepathic hypnosis. A drawing cannot be manipulated once the wax is on the paper. A Polaroid cannot be gaslit. Victor's crude art is the ultimate failsafe against a creature of pure psychological deception. This is where the boy in white becomes the most fascinating wild card in the entire series. Some fans argue the boy in white guides Victor's drawings to keep the town stable. Others point out that the boy in white explicitly stops Victor from interfering with the trees, like trying to cut one down. If Victor's art helps navigate the spatial anomalies, why would the boy in white suppress his mapping efforts? The answer is that the boy in white understands the geometry of the prison. He knows that if Victor draws the wrong thing, If Victor accidentally sketches a worse fate into existence, the town will manifest it. The boy in white is trying to guide the residents without triggering the man in yellow's wrath. He knows that pulling down the bottle tree alters the physics of the town. The man in yellow manipulates the board, but he relies on Victor to physically draw the squares. And the boy in white is desperately trying to make sure Victor does not accidentally redraw the board into something even worse. Chapter 6. Erasing the Canvas. We are marching toward an incredibly bloody endgame. The structural integrity of the town is failing on every conceivable front. The ending of season 4 pushed our survivors to the absolute brink. Fatima is lost to her horrific metamorphosis. Her humanity is entirely stripped away. Henry is psychologically primed to turn against his own family. Sophia successfully sabotaged the vertical extraction point, trapping Jade and Tabitha in the dark. The plan to dig up the children's bones and tear down the bottle tree is the most dangerous thing they have ever attempted. The man in yellow warned them that disturbing the bones would either set them free or unleash an unprecedented nightmare. But think about this through the lens of the crayon theory. Digging up the bones and cutting down the bottle tree is not just a rebellion, it is an act of geometric destruction. They are grabbing an eraser. They are actively destroying the physical anchors of Victor's drawings. The purple lightning and the massive storms are not magic. They are the physical reactions of a collapsing pocket dimension. When you tear up the paper, the world drawn on it begins to shake. They are violently undrawing the town, but a reset requires a new blueprint, or the town will collapse into absolute oblivion, crushing everyone inside it. The ritual requires an eternal warden. It requires someone to dictate the new rules of the realm. As the tarp is pulled back and the bones are exposed to the light, the chaotic energy of the town surges. The man in yellow drops the facade of Sophia and prepares to slaughter them all. In this singular moment, the only thing that can define the new reality, the only thing that can forge a path to the waking world, is Victor. He must stop documenting the past and finally draw the escape. He must take the final Polaroid of the man in yellow, locking the entity's true form into a physical state so it can be killed. The unearthing of the bones is the erasure of the old story, but the blank page demands ink, and Victor holds the only pen. Conclusion. The tragedy of Fromville is not just that these people are trapped. The true horror is that they are trapped inside the arrested development of a traumatized child. The monsters, the looping roads, the shifting tunnels, and the faraway trees are all manifestations of Victor's crayons. He is the battery. He is the architect. The Polaroid camera was his only defense, a way to anchor himself to real memories, while the entity used his imagination to build a nightmare. To finally escape Fromville, our survivors do not need to simply find the right road. A road will just loop back around. They have to break the cycle by breaking the architect's tools. They have to confront the man in yellow at the Lake of Tears, walk straight off the edge of the paper, and burn the sketchbook to ashes. Only by destroying the canvas can they ever hope to return to the real world. The cycle only breaks when the artist puts down his pen, closes the lunchbox, and steps out of the story forever. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. How do you think the destruction of the bottle tree will permanently alter the map Victor has spent a lifetime drawing? Hit that like button if you want to see more deep lore dives into the twisted geometry of this incredible show. Stay safe out there and don't trust the trees.